Welcome to Unity Inspired Living. Our community began in 1989 as a small worldwide Unity book study group, and we've continued the momentum as an ever-evolving spiritual community. Each Sunday, you will find dynamic thought leaders delivering inspiring messages and talented musicians sharing sound healing through their melody. Here, we embrace ancient spiritual traditions, universal truths, and emerging wisdom. Let's check out this Sunday message. We're so grateful you've joined us. My name is Amy Van Ling, and it is always my joy to be here with you each week, sharing a divine and inspired experience. Here at Unity Inspired Living, you will discover exceptional thought leaders and extraordinarily talented musicians who share their magic with us and their melody and their wisdom. And we're so grateful to have the beautiful people that we have with us co-creating our community. It's a beautiful space activating love and supporting transformation. And we're so grateful to be together. If you've been here for a couple of minutes, months, or decades, we're so glad that you're here. We welcome you in. And as you enter the space, I invite you to, take a moment, take that pause to take that inward breath of the spirit, my favorite definition of inspiration, as we consciously make ourselves available to life, to be willing and aware, to allow the inspiration to be dropped in. So thank you for being here. Hi, Florence. Good morning. She says, good morning. Love you. Yes, we love you too. Well, a new month is upon us. It's hard to believe. I know. I'm still like September. And our theme for this month of September is Orient to Openness. And I was sitting with our theme a couple of weeks ago because we select our themes the year before, and then I don't really look at it until we're here. And I'm thinking, okay, this can go all different directions, but orienting to openness, I was sensing, invites us to keep our third eye open. It's also known as the pineal gland, and it's said to be a center, a gateway into deeper intuition and spiritual insight. Yogananda, some of you may have read the book Autobiography of a Yogi. He spoke about the third eye as a spiritual eye, a point in consciousness, in higher consciousness. And I think he says divine perception, and teaching that keeping our third eye open allows us to transcend, if you will, the limitations of this physical world and connects us to divine guidance and a more expansive view of reality. And if we're going into the wisdom world, perhaps even higher wisdom. So, through the practices we talk about all the time, meditation, mindfulness, conscious breathing, we can keep our third eye opened and aligned and continue into this, elevated sense of connection with the world and one another. So, speaking of our purpose and wisdom, it is my joy and pleasure to welcome back Dr. SHANI Robins. He is an exceptional human, thoughtful, insightful man who cares deeply about offering guidance and wisdom to people to encourage well-being and better way of living. And we're so grateful for the way you, SHANI, graciously share yourself with us and your wisdom and your heart. And it is always a complete delight to have you here with us, sharing your loving presence. So thank you for being with us today. The message today is, get ready for this one. It's an earful. How wisdom promotes antitrust practices that mediate the monopoly often found in the mergers and acquisitions of marriage. Buckle in. SHANI has some news for us today too, so that's going to be exciting, and we're so grateful to be together. And then we will have a workshop today, and it is just going to be a deeper dive Q&A into this topic because I'm sure there will be a lot to discuss. And the workshop is from 11:30 to 12:30 Pacific time, and that's on our Zoom link that I will drop here in the Facebook live stream chat. It's also on our website, unityinspiredliving.org. You'll see a picture of Harold, SHANI, and then the link right there into the Zoom room. Everybody is invited. Come one, come all, the more the merrier. So thank you, SHANI. We appreciate you. And we are so immensely fortunate to have talented doesn't seem like enough of a word for this gentleman. He's inspirational. He's a multi-platinum songwriter and performer, Harold PAYNE. He's back with us, and he's such a gift. He's gifting us with his melody and his magic and his inspiration. And we are so grateful for your sacred yes to be with us this morning, Harold. Excited to experience your music again. Thank you for being with us today. And we have our Jennifer Simpson. She is with us this morning, shining her beautiful, radiant light, bringing her open, gentle, compassionate heart to us. And she will be sharing with us our selected inspirational reading, some community announcements, and our prayer of plenitude this morning. So we welcome you into our Unity Inspired Living community, our Facebook live stream space. And if you're watching later on YouTube, it's a divine appointment whenever you happen upon this video. So delightful light beings of brilliance and radiance, let's get started by tuning in, by activating, enlivening our mission statement, which is we are here to be fostering love and wisdom, inspiring transformation, offering compassionate outreach, and embracing unity. And we are so grateful to be on this mission together with you. So thank you for co-creating this space. We begin our morning with our community song, which I invite you to sing along because that gets all the energy flowing. So I'm going to hand the screen over to Harold now, and he's got our community song for us this morning. Thank you so much, Harold.
Wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. You feel it in my body, I can feel it in my body, in my soul. I can feel it in my soul, in my heart. I can feel it in my heart, and it won't let go. Oh, something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Oh, something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. I can feel it in my body, I can feel it in my soul, I can feel it in my heart, and it won't let go. Oh, something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now, right now. All this love inside, we can let it shine. Something wonderful, you got this. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Can you feel it? Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. And I don't have a monopoly on this feeling. You can join me something wonderful. Ay, 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 something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Big finish. Something wonderful.
Yay! I love that. And it's a beautiful reminder for us every day. Something wonderful is happening. And sometimes it's hard in those moments where you're like, this is wonderful. But I would like to offer that it might be. Thank you, Harold. You're so great. We appreciate you. Lots of activity on our Facebook live stream chat. I see all of you. I love all of you. Thank you for being here. We're so grateful. Mimi and Michael J. My mama is here. John is here. He says it's his birthday. Happy birthday. Erica's here. Welcome, Paris. Ron is here. Nancy. Ron says he has some tiramisu for you, Shani. Nancy's here, Florence. Welcome in, beloveds. We're so grateful to be together this morning. I'm going to hand the screen over to Jennifer now. She has some community announcements and our inspirational reading this morning. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Amy. Hello, everyone, and happy Sunday. So our announcements start with making sure that you remember to stay for our wonderful workshop, an extension of our wonderful talk today from 11:30 to 12:30 on Zoom. And you can find the Zoom link on our homepage of our website, www.unityinspiredliving.org. And we always join together in dialogue with curiosity and wonder. And our annual event, the Peace Walk, is happening very soon on Thursday, September 19th, beginning at 6:30 on the lawn outside the Brentwood Community Center across from the library. Amy will be leading the service, so that's exciting that she'll be there to join us. And we will have the candlelight walk through downtown Brentwood. I encourage you to invite your friends and family and join us for this very important event as we proclaim together peace in our world. And if you are willing to post or hand out some flyers for our Peace Walk, call Nancy, as we have copies and would love to have you share with the community. Thank you so very much. And please also save the date of September 21st for our third Saturday Community Circle and Potluck. Weather permitting, we will be back at Veterans Park at our same location beginning at 11 a.m. with our circle and potluck at 12 noon. If it is too hot, we will gather at Christy Costa's home in Brentwood. So thank you, Christy, for being willing to offer your home, and watch for an email to let you know the location of the event. And as always, we are sending out a huge, heartfelt thank you to all those who are continuing to support the Mitchell Van Ling Family Memorial Fund each month. Please continue to make your donations via check, PayPal, or Zelle no later than 2 days before the end of the month. Appreciate that. And if you have an idea for an event for our month of September monthly meanderings, please let Jan or Nancy know so that we can advertise it in the weekly connection and you will have time to organize it. And remember, we encourage you to like and share our Facebook page and our YouTube page every time you visit them. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Unity Inspired Living. It really does make a difference. All right, well, thank you for listening to all that. And now we are moving on to our inspirational reading, which is from Daily Word. And our word for today is fearless. I fearlessly keep my mind and heart open. When I feel afraid, my first instinct might be to close my mind and heart. This impulse for self-protection is understandable, but it also has the potential to stunt my spiritual and emotional growth and shield me from life. Staying open to new ideas and experiences may sometimes require me to put hesitation aside and be fearless. If this feels difficult, I call upon the presence of God within, my source of spiritual strength. With God, I can do all things. Living as the divine being I am, I see the world and its creatures as wondrous, and its people as fellow spiritual beings. Understanding these truths keeps my mind and heart open. I am fearless. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. We appreciate you. Everything you bring to us, we're grateful. Okay, I'm going to hand the screen back over to Harold. He has our next song for us this morning. Thank you so much, Harold.
Thank you. I'm making a last minute change here in my song because everything is a little different than I thought it was going to be, but I love that. And oh wow, where's my capo when I need it? It's in my case here. I'm going to take, it's worth the 30 seconds it's going to take me to
We're
find it.
flexible. That gives us practice to know something wonderful is always happening.
That's right. I
Yes.
think the talk is
Yeah.
about fearless. I mean, it's not the talk, but the word.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go for this song.
Beautiful. Thank you, Harold.
Uh-huh. I'm a fearless flyer, I'm a wind rider, I am all I need to be. In the pouring rain of a hurricane, I am flying fearlessly. I am the rose of winter, in the snow, reaching for the sky above from the earth below, growing from a tiny seed, awakening these dreams, believing in the miracle of spring. I'm a fearless flyer, I'm a wind rider, I am all I need to be. In the pouring rain of a hurricane, I am flying fearlessly. Standing on a mountaintop, take a leap of faith, knowing it's a moment that cannot wait, rolling with the changing current, dancing with the breeze, as inspiration carries me where my soul is meant to be. I'm a fearless flyer, I'm a wind rider, I am all I need to be. In the pouring rain of a hurricane, I am flying fearlessly. Here in the silence, the shadows like the shining sun, I'm rising with the dawn. I'm a fearless flyer, I'm a wind rider, I am all I need to be. In the pouring rain of a hurricane, I am flying fearlessly.
Oh, that was such an amazing song, Harold. Thank you for switching gears and listening to
Sure.
that little inner voice of like, hey, let's go here. That's wonderful. Beautiful song. Beautiful song. Thank you for sharing that with us this morning. We're grateful. Okay, where are we? We're going to go back to Jennifer. Jennifer has our prayer of plenitude for us this morning. Thank you, dear Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you, Harold. That
Yeah.
is such a great reminder that we are fearless flyers and that we are all that we need to be. So as we tune into that vibration of being all that we need to do, let's enter into this sacred space of prosperity, knowing that we are already prosperous. So I invite you to join me now as we move into a space of oneness with spirit. And let's begin that with breathing in that beautiful breath of life that connects us. As Amy was mentioning about the third eye, think of that breath coming in through the third eye and dropping down into your heart space. Nice full breath, alive, awakening all your cells. And as you exhale, you just let go of anything you don't need, anything that doesn't belong to you. And we quiet our minds and open to the great realization of abundant universe. We connect with an inner stillness that is grounded in the divine flow of giving and receiving. We practice gratitude for all that life gives us and accept that there is more coming our way. We align and operate from our divine nature to give freely from a compassionate heart to ourselves and others, assured we are never void. And we set our intention to engage in right action that attracts opportunities to prosper. We are each a very grateful spirit expanding in this human life. And we are gratefully succeeding in stepping forward into greater good. And so it is.
So it is. I affirm that. Thank you for that beautiful space you created and that prayer. Thank you, Jennifer. We love you. Okay, we're going to go back to Harold for our final song this morning. Thank you, Harold, for your beauty, your magic. We're so grateful for having you this morning with us.
Well, thank you. My honor, and I definitely want to listen to the talk. Sounds really intriguing. And I switched this song as well because I didn't know that this was going to be the title, and so I want to do something that is at least somewhat congruent as much as it can be. So here we go. Turn the news on, you get your blues on from all the negativity. It's hard to wrap yourself around what's going down on TV. You can stress it, second guess it. You can think about it way too hard, or you can move the conversation from your head to your heart. Sometimes it's a matter of just letting go, holding on to the one thing we know. Love wins, love wins. That's where the circle of life begins. It's a one simple lesson we're learning again and again. Love wins. We all matter. It doesn't matter if we're on one side or the other, as long as we find a way to get along with one another. We can agree to disagree, or maybe even realize that you see another point of view when you look through someone else's eyes. Sometimes it's as easy as just letting go, holding on to the one thing we know. Love wins, love wins. That's where the circle of life begins. It's the one simple lesson we're learning again. promotes antitrust practices that mediate the monopoly, often found on the mergers and acquisitions of marriage. Oh, oh, love wins, even in monogamy. Love wins, stronger than mahogany. Love wins. Oh, 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 oh. Love wins.
Oh, that was so excellent. Thank you so much, Harold. I love it. Love wins. Yes, I affirm. I affirm this. Thank you so much, Jennifer and Harold, for bringing your divine spirits, your light, and your love. We appreciate you and the energy and joy you shared with us this morning in the space that you helped us co-create. Thank you. Thank you, Harold. Where can everybody find you if they want more from you?
Well, there's haroldpaynemusic.com, and then on YouTube I have a truckload of stuff that's been going on YouTube, including just an interview that just came on about my walk on the Camino in Portugal and Spain. So go to YouTube. Harold Payne Music is a good place, or Facebook, or usual
Perfect.
places.
And you're live on Tuesdays, right? Usually?
I do a 2-song Tuesday live on Facebook. Facebook Live at 5:30 Pacific.
Yeah, they're great too. I've caught quite a few of those. Thank you so much,
Thank
Jennifer,
you.
Harold, for being here. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. We will see you on this end of the technology. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Gratitude. And I am so full, overflowing with gratitude to have Dr. SHANI Robins here with us. Bright, authentic soul that he is. And I am going to read you a little bit about SHANI for those of you just getting to know him. Quite a magnificent soul. Dr. SHANI Robins pioneered the field of wisdom therapy in 1998. He's a licensed psychologist by the California Board of Psychology and is the founder and director of the Wisdom Therapy Institute since 2000. He's an instructor at Stanford University Medical School's Health Improvement and Be Well programs and the director of clinical training at Sophia University. Dr. Robins received his BA in psychology and philosophy from UCLA in 1989, his MA and PhD in cognitive experimental psychology from UC Santa Barbara in 1996, completed a 2-year National Institute of Mental Health postdoc at UC Irvine in 1999, and a PhD respecialization in clinical psychology in 2002. Amazing man. He has published and given numerous clinical workshops, invited talks, scientific conference presentations, and corporate consultations nationally and internationally on wisdom therapy and its relationship to cognitions, emotions, stress reduction, relationships, workplace effectiveness, coping, emotional intelligence, performance, and organizational consulting. He is a member of the American Psychological Association, the California Psychological Association, and has won many honors and awards. In his spare time, SHANI plays racquetball, chess, and go, rollerblades, salsa dances, runs marathons, and watches sunrises. Fantastic to have you here with us, Dr. SHANI Robins. I just started salsa dancing 2 months ago. So grateful to have you here. I'm going to pray us in and then hand the screen over to Dr. Robins. He is amazing. Let's just tune into this sacred space of community. I invite you to take a deep cleansing inhale if that feels comfortable for you, and exhale all that no longer serves your infinite nature. We are so grateful that the presence of God, of goodness, is here now and always present and never absent. We remember that our life is a prayer, a declaration, and we are the embodiment of this pure essence, this high consciousness, this goodness, this godness. We cultivate and activate our infinite potential through our uniqueness and our communion with wisdom. Divine wisdom. We are so grateful for Shani this morning. We open ourselves up to discovering more of who and what we are through his wise and extraordinary message for us today. We bless Shani and cover him in our gratitude, appreciating his unique and powerful expression. We say a sacred yes to peace on earth and love in the world, and I release this word into the great expanse of infinite possibilities in love, for love, and as love. And so it is. Ashe, namaste. It's all yours, Shani. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Amy. Pleasure to be here. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And so the title of today's talk is How Wisdom Promotes Antitrust Practices that Mediate the Monopoly Often Found in the Mergers and Acquisitions of Marriage. It's a mouthful and probably seems odd to compare marriage to mergers, business monopolies, but I'm going to talk about why that could actually be a useful comparison and what can be done to mediate some of the challenges that is often seen in those structures. So I start out with a sobering part of these things, and then I'm hopefully going to present some optimistic skill building options that would create some positive views of what we can do to actually have a very positive experience in all this. The elephant in the room that Amy had mentioned in a pre-meeting was that I'm getting married in 2 weeks. So when I talk about the monopoly of marriage, it's a very timely topic, and that's why I thought it would be fun to actually do this now, 2 weeks before I myself am getting married. First time I'm getting married in my life. And so I waited quite a bit for that, for lots of reasons, some of which I'm going to talk about. So I thought I would start with kind of the I don't know, the typical societal critiques of marriage, and no better way to do that than marriage jokes. So let's start with those rather than just talk about it in a more mundane, boring way. Let's go through 4 or 5 kind of classic marriage jokes, and then that will get us into the topic that we can point to some aspects of those jokes. So one of them is there's a psycholinguistics conference, and there's a challenge to put to the people at the conference. What's the difference between the definition of complete and finished? And the winning entry was someone who said, if a man finds the right woman, he's complete. If a man finds the wrong woman, he's finished. If the right woman finds him with the wrong woman, he's completely finished. So there's that piece. Let's put that over here and hold that for a second. Then we've got the joke where in terms of these are Mars, Venus kind of things, how different women and men think about different things, and there's jokes around that. And just when you see sometimes when I do workshops on relationships and marriage and short and long-term relationships, and sometimes the lack of awareness that some men especially show in terms of focusing on the wrong dimensions, that's going to be one of the highlighted pieces here. So the wife says, hey, our new neighbor always kisses his wife when he goes to work. Why don't you do that? And the husband says, how can I? I don't even know her. Okay, so what makes that funny is exactly that. It's like, how can someone focus on such the wrong dimension of what's relevant, right? I had a client once where I saw the wife of the couple for a few months in my private practice. I've been doing clinical therapy for over 20 years, and I've seen literally hundreds of couples and marriages. And she came in alone because he wouldn't come in with her. So it's a little difficult to do marital counseling for one person, but I saw her a few times. And afterwards I said, this is really hitting a wall here. I really need to see him too. Can you guys come in together next time? So they did. And even after just a few minutes of talking to him, I got the sense that we're looking at narcissistic personality disorder in him. And so one of the things that's missing most in that is empathy. There's a lot of things that are off on that, but empathy is a whopping big one, a lack of empathy. And we only have to look to certain political candidates to see what that looks like. I won't mention any names. But the lack of empathy is just obvious. And so I said, one of the staples of good relationships is empathy. And he looks at me, kind of quizzically turns his head and says, "What's that?" And English was not his second language. And he just genuinely didn't know what I was talking about. And I thought, okay, maybe it's just a word. Maybe I'm using jargon. Let me define it. I said, well, empathy is putting yourself in the other person's shoes and feeling what they're feeling. And it didn't help. His quizzical look didn't change. It's like he just literally didn't know what I was talking about. So that gives you a sobering kind of almost reality check of just how far apart, Grand Canyon apart, some people are and what they're bringing to relationships. Let's do a couple of more jokes and that highlight this kind of perspective. So there's a joke of a husband goes to the police station, says, I want to file a missing person report. My wife's missing. And policeman says, well, what's her height? He says, average, I guess. Slim? Slim? He goes, not slim, but healthy, I guess. Color of eyes? Never noticed. Color of hair? The husband says, I guess it changes from time to time. Policeman says, what was she wearing? Husband says, not sure. Either a dress or a suit, I think. Policeman says, what was she driving? Husband says, yes. Inspector says, color of the car? Husband says, black Audi 8.8 supercharged 3.0 liter V6 engine generating 336 horsepower, came with 8-speed Tetronic automatic transmission with manual mode, has full LED highlights, light transmitting diodes for all light functions, very thin scratch on the left side. And then he starts crying. And the policeman says, don't worry, we'll find the car. So it's not only the focusing on the wrong dimension of some individuals, but then it becomes a cultural norm almost by doing that. So there's an aspect that what makes it both funny and sad is that we know that there's aspects of long-term relationships where when we start, we put our best foot forward, right? On a first date, and we'll talk about that in a second. We try to put in the first date and the second date in the first few months. That's why we call that the honeymoon period, right? We're presumably at our best, and then something happens after that. And we'll talk a little bit about what that is. And so we're not necessarily showing all of ourselves, right? So there's another joke where little boy says, Mom, I've heard that in some parts of Africa, a man and a woman don't know each other until they marry. And she says, son, that actually happens everywhere. So what is it that happens after people commit to each other for this long-term thing and go through this transition of formalizing it in ceremony and to all their friends and family and so on? And what is it that goes wrong after a while? So there's, the jokes about my spouse and I have been happy for 18 years, then we met. It's not pretty, right? That some of these things are universal. Another one, marriage is a great institution, but I'm just not ready to be institutionalized. So when we talk about what is it that happens over time, let's go down the list of multiple things. Habituation versus gratitude, for example. So we habituate, we get used to things. How many of us woke up today, got up and said, wow, my legs work today. That's amazing. Right? Okay, Amy is one. I've talked about this for decades, and I didn't do that this morning. I do it often. But we get used to it, right? So our legs have worked for years, for decades. And so it's like, yeah, I can walk, but what's life done for me lately? And so we get used to that and then look for the next thing rather than, hold on, this is an amazing thing that's happening here. I'm willing my legs to get out of bed and they're doing that. And even if we can't walk, my arms are moving. And even if our arms can't move and we're paralyzed, our eyes are working, our ears, we can hear music. Gratitude practice for whatever is there. And so we're very enamored initially, the shiny object, and then we get used to it, and then something else happens. And there's another running joke. When a man opens a car door for his wife, it's either a new car or a new wife. So it's sad that it's funny, right? So I want to talk about a few things that have to do with what is it that's needed, what it is that's happening in a structure. So in the title, I connected this to monopoly. So let me just say maybe 1 to 2 minutes about just to define what those are. So when you hear about antitrust laws, like government laws to break up companies and so on, like Google and Microsoft, because they're getting too powerful. Antitrust laws, let me read this to you, are regulations that encourage competition by limiting the market power of any particular firm. It often involves ensuring that mergers and acquisitions don't overly concentrate power, market power, or form monopolies as well, and they break up firms that have become monopolies. The Clayton Act, which is the main antitrust law act, promotes fair competition and prevents unfair business practices that would harm consumers. It prohibits certain actions that might restrict competition, like tying agreements, predatory pricing, and mergers that could lessen competition. All right. So when you think about what's changed in the business world from the 1960s to present, in 1960s, it was considered the golden era of antitrust. Income flowed to the top 1% of earners. And at the time, it was something like 8%. The top 1% was making about 8% of the income in the country. Now the top 1% is earning about 40% of the income in the country. So it's gotten a lot worse over the last 60 years in terms of very few, all the power has gotten to very few people. And the monopolies have contributed dramatically to that. So, and the prices, anyone buy an iPhone lately, right? It's $1,000, $1,200 for a phone. And how can they do that? Well, now there are more. There's the Google phone and a few others, not that many. So the prices are still high. So when we talk about what is needed to mediate all this, and so the argument, as you might guess from me, is basically there are two options. Either you break up the monopoly, in which case there's competition, which means from a relationship point of view, it's not monogamous. And there's a whole area across thousands of years and across the globe, people who practice polyamory, meaning that you have more than one mate, whether it's polygamy, more than one wife, or polyandry, more than one husband, or lots of 100 of other variations of what polyamory can be. Just polyamory just means more than one. Polyamory, love, more than one love. It has hundreds of structures. So either you break up the monopoly and it's no longer monogamous, in which case there's now competition for love, for the love and intimacy and passion and sexuality and so on, or you develop skills to such an extent where even though there's the temptation to abuse power in a monopoly situation, someone still doesn't. So can you imagine if Google came out with the only phone, or Apple, and they kept the prices down and the quality up? It's almost inconceivable, right? That the prices wouldn't just keep getting jacked up and quality would probably go down. They wouldn't have to renovate, revolutionize it every few months, and others as well. And so the pushback here is, yes, the structure is inherently pulling for abuse of power. And if you think, yeah, but I wouldn't abuse that power, or let's do a quick jump to other parts of life, like how we treat other beings, like, beings we call animals because they're not human, right? So chickens, cows, and others. How do we treat them? We have power over them, right? We have a prefrontal cortex. We created tools that we are able to dominate other creatures on this planet, namely all the creatures, literally millions and millions of species. And what do we do with that? Well, we've killed off millions of species for one, but two, we have a systematic industry that tortures, kills animals, and then we eat them after they're tortured. That's what we do with our power over other beings that we have massive power over. We're not handling that power well, to say the least. And everybody's colluding on this, myself included. We're all in on this. I've been vegetarian for 40 years or 50 years, but I'm part of the society that's also doing this. I'm part of the species that's doing this. We're all in this together. And so, and if it's not this, it's other abuses of power. And so nobody is immune from this. But I'm just presenting this as an example of a heads up when we think, I wouldn't do that. Or it's like we are doing that day in, day out. Every time we go to McDonald's, we're doing that. So what would it take to use the power we have in any walk of life in a much more skillful way? Well, as you might guess, a lot of wisdom and the skills associated with wisdom, namely empathy, compassion, mindfulness, emotional intelligence, the things that mediate the risks when you do willingly go into this somewhat unhealthy structure of a monopoly that lacks competition. So competition, there's a healthy aspect to that pushes for higher quality, our best foot forward, right? When you think about what a relationship is like the first 3 months versus 10 years later, how common is it to see the dynamic and the affection and the passion and the love 10 years later that was there on the first, second, third, fourth dates? 10 years later, a spouse comes home and somebody's reading the paper, one of them is reading the paper or looking at the computer, and the other one's coming home after a few hours of work or something else, and the spouse doesn't even look up from the computer, doesn't even acknowledge that something just happened, that someone they presumably love a lot just walked into the room. How does that not lead to stop everything you're doing, get up and give the person a hug? How long does that take? 10, 20 seconds, right? And then people excuse that by saying, well, I was busy. Like, really? 20 seconds? It's like, do you have your finger on the nuclear codes? How are you so busy that you don't have 20 seconds, right? It's not the busy. That's an excuse. It's a rationalization. It's that it just simply doesn't occur. There's been habituation, just like walking or anything else. We get so used to having this person in our life, we no longer have the sense of appreciation and gratitude that someone amazing just walked through the room. And if we don't think someone amazing just walked into the room, why are you with them? So either appreciate that they're amazing in different ways. It's not like people don't have challenges too. But if there isn't at a core level some deep respect for who this human being is, then you got to ask yourself why you're still there. And if there is a deep respect for that, stop looking at your computer for 20 seconds and give him a hug. So there's practices that come from behavioral changes that come from wisdom practices, like empathy, emotional intelligence, love, that emerges from some of these things too. And there are things that interfere with that, like what was just described as the fear. That was a good theme. Being fearless is not just useful, it's almost essential to having a very loving, ongoing loving relationship, especially long term. If I'm fearful and anxious, I'm too much closed down. I don't even see what's happening. Tunnel vision, survival mode, right? Fight, flight. Somebody walks into the room, if they're not a predator, then I'm too focused on surviving in other ways. But if anxiety and stress and fear go down to very low levels, and doing some deep breathing helps, looking at our cognitive distortions helps, decatastrophizing helps. If we can bring our fears down and anxieties down, Now we're more open. If we're more open, we're more mindful, more aware, more empathic. If we're more mindful, we're now more aware of who's in the room, which means we're more likely to be empathic towards who's in the room, which means we're likely to acknowledge our love for somebody who's in the room. It all hangs together. There's no way to avoid this. There's no way to do this well without being incredibly skillful in all of this. It's like saying, you know, I like driving with my eyes closed. Can I do that? It's like, no, you can't. That won't go well. Bad things will happen from that. And so there's no easy way around this. You just have to be tremendously more skillful, especially when you say yes to this relatively unhealthy structure inherently. So what can be done on this? Okay, so there are a few things that we can point out. We talked about changing the structure. This is probably a good time to talk about Kohlberg's 3 stages of moral development. So Kohlberg, famous psychologist that talked about different stages of especially early development, but lifespan development. He identified 3 stages: early stage development, where in infancy and early childhood, all we understand is pain and suffering. And so we have a fear of pain, and that's why we don't do certain things. Pleasure and pain. We want the pleasure, we want to avoid the pain. Why do we do what our parents tell us when we're 3, 4, 5, 6 years old? We don't want to get spanked. We don't want to get time out. We want to have TV time, and pleasure and pain. Then through late childhood and adolescence, we switch hopefully to 2nd stage Kohlberg development, rules and laws. And we spend decades often in that structure, rules and laws. Why do we do that? Because it's against why don't we do that? It's against the law, it's against the rule. And the 3rd stage is the much more advanced stage where wisdom, empathy, compassion is what motivates us. So let me give you an example, and we can flesh this out both here and potentially in the discussion later today. Driving. So why not drive 60 miles an hour in a school zone? Well, if one is in the 1st stage of moral development, then I don't want to drive 60 miles an hour because I may crash into something and ruin my car, which will cause a lot of pain. Or I may get a ticket, which will cost a lot of money. Those things will be painful to me. So I don't want to do that. If the person is in 2nd stage of Kohlberg's moral development, why not drive 60 miles an hour in a school zone? It's against the law. I can see the sign right there. It says 25 miles an hour limit. I want to adhere to the laws, so I will only drive 25 miles an hour. What is someone in 3rd stage of moral development? Why don't they drive 60 miles an hour? Because I don't want to hurt someone. If a kid runs across the street, I want to be able to stop. 3 completely radically different reasons for driving 25 miles an hour. So you can see where this is going, taking this to relationships and marriage. Why not say something your spouse doesn't like, or why not have an affair with, the neighbor? Because my wife will kill me. It's like, okay, 1st stage. Or why even at a party flirt with somebody else, even if it's not a sexual affair? Oh, if my wife sees me talking to that woman, that beautiful woman over there, she'll just give me hell, and that's painful, and I don't want to do that. Okay, stage 1. Stage 2, why not flirt or have a sexual affair with somebody else in a marital relationship? Because I promised I wouldn't, and I took vows that I wouldn't, and we have a contract that I wouldn't, so I don't. That's the rule, that's the law. Stage 3, why not do that? Because if I do that, it might be hurtful to her. So why would I want to be hurtful to her? That's a very different motivational structure than needing the rules and the laws. And we know how effective the rules and the laws are. What percentage of people have affairs? Google that. You'll be shocked. It's very, very high. we know about half the people that get married get divorced. So we already know that, right? And if you look at the half that are not divorced, a pretty high percentage of those, when you see their dynamic, you think, oh, they should really get a divorce. So by the time it's done, what percentage of people really do this well? And you've heard this from me a few times, a few talks. It takes a lot of skill to do it well. And in part, the reason is because it has this inherent monopoly and people feel entitled to treat the person they're with really badly, right? Isn't it odd that most spouses yell at each other? How many people yell at their boss? It's pretty low. It's close to zero. Everybody knows if I yell at my boss, I'll be fired. There's no way you can yell at your boss, right? How long? Your boss will maybe give you 1 or 2 chances, but after that, you're gone. But we come home and we yell at our husband and wife and also children and other loved ones, but let's keep this in a marital space because the others are a much broader category. So just in a marital space, like, how do people feel entitled to yell at each other? So that's what I consider the quality going down. Somebody feels like they have a monopoly on this other person. I'm going to yell at them and they can't do anything about it. It's like, really? Well, what do we know from experience? First of all, they'll yell back. They'll do that about it. So there's that. But after a while, after a few years of that, and by the way, I'm amazed people last a few years of that. My threshold for that is pretty low. If somebody ever yelled at me for any reason, we would have a very long discussions about how to navigate life in the next few days, weeks, and months, and what is needed to not do that. Namely, reading about, practicing mindful meditation, emotional intelligence practice, doing therapy individually, doing therapy as couples. And that's just the first 10 seconds of that hour-long conversation that would take place of what we need to do about that. But people just say, oh, I'm sorry about that, and they move on as if nothing happened. That's what I mean by quality going down. Can you imagine on a first date, if first of all, the thing about people having their head in a computer when the spouse comes home and they don't even look up. Imagine a first day when a person's in a coffee shop, you meet your date for coffee. First date, never met them. Your head is in your computer reading something. They come to your table, say, hi, nice to meet you. And you put up your hand and say, wait a minute, I'm reading an article. I mean, what would you do, right? We would just turn around and walk away, basically. And so, and it's comically and sadly funny to even consider that. So why is it that we don't do it on a first date, but we do it 3 years, 5 years, 10 years later? Why? Can you imagine yelling at your date on a first date? It's unheard of, right? Have you ever seen that in any movie where somebody yells? And if it's ever done, it's probably done from some ironic comical relief of just how odd that is, right? So why can't we bring that same energy 5, 10 years later? It's a lack of practice of the wisdom skills, and the love follows that. It's hard to love skillfully, and it's hard not to take for granted without gratitude practice, because we habituate. So we take for granted. It's hard not to assume that we're entitled to something if we don't practice appreciation and gratitude, if we don't dishabituate. Gratitude, in effect, is a dishabituation practice. It's like seeing something with a new eye for the first time, all the time. And so to see things in general, being able to walk, to see the tree outside and our partners. So what we're talking about here is follow up on all the wisdom skills talks we've had in the past, where mindfulness, empathy, compassion, gratitude, humility, emotional intelligence, ego transcendence are highly practiced in everyday life. It's not that we suddenly just bring those to our relationship. But the reason it becomes essential to practice them in a relationship is because of this monopoly structure, because the structure is pulling for habituation and abuse. It's pulling for, I can do whatever I damn well please, and you can't go anywhere because I'm your only husband and you're my only wife, or two husbands, or it's gender neutral, right? It could be two husbands, two wives, whatever it is, it's two human beings. So this assumption that I have a monopoly on intimacy and sexuality and so on is easy to abuse unless the other party comes in with tremendous gratitude, low fear, low anxiety, high emotional intelligence, high empathy. You see what we're getting at, right? Unless you're very actively practicing third stage cold moral development and you're deep into that stage and practicing every day. If not, it's going to be massively abused, that structure. Just to toss in a teaser on polyamory, that's an alternative for competition. If in polyamorous relationships, if somebody starts yelling at their partner, if they know they have two or three other lovers, okay, you can, even as I'm asking the question, it becomes blatantly obvious where the energy is going to start going. Let's see, I have these three lovers that don't yell at me and in fact honor and respect our time together, cherish our time together, appreciate our time together. And when I go over here, I get criticism, yelling, put downs, reactivity, narcissism even. Let's see, how do I want to spend my time tomorrow, right? So what that does is it tells this person who's relatively abusive, who's yelling, screaming, and criticizing, that I better get my act together because my partner has options. And if I don't treat them well, they'll go to somebody who does. That sounds pretty healthy, right? The problem is that this polyamory open structure, if the skills are not there, you see that here's the catch-22. When is that open structure mostly needed? If somebody doesn't have much wisdom skills, they need competition because they're in second stage moral development. But if they're in second stage moral development where their empathy and mindfulness is low, good luck practicing polyamory without tremendous amount of conflict, like jealousy. Jealousies are incredibly common in polyamorous relationships, in open relationships where there's competition. So it's not a monopoly, there's competition that creates, that's ostensibly healthy in terms of everybody trying to be at their best. The downside is that if you're not in third stage development, often, then stress, anxiety, fear, and jealousies come up, rear their ugly head. And if you ever talk to people in the Bay Area is the hub of polyamory in the country, probably. It's all over the world, but it's practiced across time. But if you talk to these folks, what you find is incredibly common to process like hell. What does that mean? It means having 4-hour conversations about what did you feel? And here's what I felt. And how do you feel about how I felt about you being with that person? And that's what I felt about you saying what you felt about being with that person. It becomes painful. And it goes on and on and on for hours. So, and they're very proud of the processing. It's like, oh, we've really talked that through. Yeah, because you're in second stage development. If you're in third stage development, where compersion, low fear, high self-esteem, and compersion are practiced, what does that mean? It means I'm good with myself. I'm not in a fearful place of my partner leaving me. And even if they did leave, I'm confident I'll find another partner. I can practice love with somebody else. There isn't a monopoly on love. So there's that. And so, but in addition to all that, there's deep compersion. What does that mean? It means joy for the other person's joy. Compersion is the opposite of jealousy. Instead of, I don't want you to share time with somebody else that you find meaningful and joyful, I feel joy when you spend time with somebody else in meaningful, joyful ways. It sounds like a fantasy, right? It sounds like it's inconceivable almost. And on a practical level, it almost is, because it takes very significant third stage developmental skills to practice it well. To practice it badly, excellent. Anyone can do that. And a lot of people in the Bay Area do. they practice it badly. Namely, either experience tremendous jealousies because they're 10-year-olds driving a car. They simply don't have the skills to do what they're attempting to do. Hence, all the processing and the costs on the back end. It's like a 10-year-old driving, can a 10-year-old drive a car? Sure, for about 10 minutes until they hit another car or a tree. And then the costs on the back end, fixing the car, dealing with the police, or hurting someone, worse even than that. So you see the dilemma here. If one is not in advanced stage of development, where mindfulness, empathy, compassion, gratitude, wisdom is at high levels, forget about practicing polyamory, open relationships. It's going to be tremendously inviting conflict. But if you're then in monogamous, the simpler version of relationship monogamy, it's going to invite the escalations that come with having a monopoly, namely quality of the relationship goes down and price goes up. Catch-22. So what do you do? What's the solution? The only solution is to get the hell out of that first and second stages of development. That is the only solution. To practice, to grow up, build the skills it would take to do something else, and then you can decide whether you're in a monogamous or polyamorous relationship then becomes a very open choice. It barely matters. There's a third category that actually was coined by Dan Savage called monogamish, which I always thought was amusing and appealing. Monogamish is where you're mostly monogamous, but if you wanted to share any intimacy or love with anybody else, it's an option. It's just not an option you actively pursue. So you're not in second stage moral development where you have the rules that prevent you from sharing intimacy with anybody else. You just don't often do it because most often you chose to put most of your time and energy with this person. So you see the complexity here. There's so many dimensions around this, but the short version of all of these is that they all revolve around development. But when that's not the case, the hostility and especially the transfer of anger across feeling slighted and insulted, and then the cross insults come and go in relationships. The couples I see in counseling, I mean, and that's the good ones that even get to counseling, right? And the emotional wounds that are there that lead to insult and counter insult are pretty dramatic. Here's a good joke that exemplifies that pretty well. The wife says, "I feel horrible. I look old, fat, ugly. I really need you to pay me a compliment now." And the husband says, "Well, your eyesight is nearly damn perfect." Brutal, right? But it's not coming out of nowhere. It comes out of him feeling slighted for all sorts of other things, of things she called him. It's like, you're worthless, you're this, you're that, you're lazy. So he gets back at her, and then she feels hostile. She gets back at him, and there's this co-escalation over time that's very unpleasant. So instead of practicing gratitude and appreciation and seeing the best in each other, it goes the other way. I've had examples in therapy where the couple is sitting there and I said, "Okay, let's do a little exercise. Tell me three good things. Tell me three things you really like about the other person." And sometimes the person would say something like, "Well, they're very caring and they're a great parent, and I like what they're devoting their life to." Really meaningful, deep things. That tends to be the exception. Sometimes this guy just sat there and said, "She's very organized." This is a couple that have been married 15, 20 years. Organized? That's, for her clothes drawers are neat. That's what the best you can do in saying something that you respect about your wife. That's pretty sad. And sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes I say, "Okay, could you let's take 5 minutes." And I'm optimistic that it would say three positive things about each other. Let's start with you. crickets. That is a very long 30 seconds in silence. We're talking years of marriage, 30 seconds of silence before he can come up with anything. And when he does come up with something, it's something along the lines of she's organized or she's a good driver or this or that. It's like, wow, right? Rather than something like very loving or empathic or so. By the time it gets there, there's been so much practice of the negativity and the insults and the arguments and the hostility, it's hard to even see past that anymore. So many layers of that. But it's not nothing that gave rise to some of that. What gave rise to a lot of that is the structure that pulled, this monopoly structure that pulled for abusing power. And we're constantly in that structure in life in different ways. Again, like how we treat animals. It's not just hostile towards animal. We torture, kill them, and eat them. That's pretty harsh, and the numbers are staggering, right? I think I mentioned this a while back, years ago, in a talk. But if you think about how many chickens are tortured and killed in the U.S. each year, it's not thousands, it's not hundreds of thousands, it's not millions, it's not hundreds of millions, it's 10 to 15 billion. And that's just in the US. And most of them are not free range. They don't run around just enjoying life until they're killed. They're tortured most of their life. My point is that we abuse power very readily as a species. So it's not surprising we do it here too. And to not do it requires just very active development. To get past this early stages of development, being reactive, yelling at traffic. If you're going to yell at traffic, don't try to have a positive relationship. It's 1,000 times more complex than traffic. We simply don't have the skills to do a relationship well if we're still yelling at traffic, because we have pre-adolescent level of development if we're still yelling at traffic. So we can't afford to yell at traffic. Obama once was asked, don't you get pissed off when they say this, this, and that about you? And he said, I don't have the luxury of being pissed off. I have too many important things to do. Yeah. Aren't we looking forward to that perspective again? So we don't have the luxury, if we want to do this well, we don't have the luxury of yelling, screaming, name calling. If we want to do it well, we have to be practicing these things. And so, relationships can be amazing. Even monogamous relationships that have this monopoly structure can be amazing, but it's essential to be incredibly skillful if you're going to embrace this structure. So our individual level of development maturity influences the nature of the love. Mature love includes wisdom, empathy, humility, kindness, mindfulness, emotional intelligence, humor, gratitude, joy, compassion for self and others. The opposite of wise love is foolish love, immature love. Foolish love is selfish rather than empathic. It's arrogant rather than humble, harsh rather than kind. It's reactive and anxious rather than mindful. It's angry rather than emotionally intelligent. It's entitled rather than grateful. It's grouchy rather than joyful. So these are among the things that define the quality of this product called relationship, that often seems to be, these are the things that get degraded in a monopoly structure unless amazing skill is brought to the table. So living a developmentally oriented life where everything is an opportunity to practice creates this more mature love. It pushes us to the advanced stages of development. It creates this beautiful positive feedback loop between love and wisdom, because love enhances wisdom and wisdom enhances love. It creates this intimate relationships that are amazing in their structure. And then you get to, quotes like Corinthians, where love is always patient and kind. It is never jealous. It's never boastful or conceited. It's not rude or selfish. It doesn't offense or resent. It takes no pleasure in others' sins or faults. It's always ready to excuse or trust or hope and to endure whatever comes. Right? Corinthians, powerful quote that we've talked about. Quotes like the Dalai Lama. Remember, he said, "Remember, the best relationship is one of which your love for each other exceeds your need for each other." This is why a crush is not as advanced as love. A crush is a much more adolescent concept of sexual attraction or chemistry, whatever that is. Um, Love is something much more complex and much more mature. Uh, there's a few other good quotes, but at the end of the day, it's marriage itself is not the ultimate commitment. I'm getting married in 2 weeks, and I'm not. People keep asking me, "So are you nervous?" No, I'm not nervous because the context in which I'm getting married is so full of these skills and years of experience of experiencing those skills together with my partner. Her name is Natalia. Marriage is not the ultimate commitment. It's a byproduct of an even larger commitment for development. It's part of development. It can be a useful part. It is a commitment to loving more deeply, loving more wisely, to loving with more ego transcendence, even that it's not just about me, it's about us. There's an ego transcendence to that that's powerful as a practice, both for love and wisdom. But to do that well, we need to love ourselves. We need to work on reducing our fears, lower cognitive distortions, all the wisdom skills, more mindfulness, empathy. And marriage sometimes means loving someone more than you love yourself. And obviously we have to love ourselves too. So all of that, it's all part of the equation. There's a balance to all that. Getting married is an intention to love someone with tremendous skill. It includes using frequent opportunities to practice emotional intelligence and the others rather than indulging in reactivity. And life presents frequent opportunities to be kind, frequent opportunities to be empathic. And you see situations and arguments and things from another person's point of view. That's what creates all these opportunities. There's a fun line, and you see that with the partner day to day. Will Ferrell, the comedian, had a fun line. He said, "Before you marry a person, you should first make them use a computer with slower internet to see who they really are." And so it's these practices that open all that up. Without the practices, the structure can go down, can go south. With the practices, the structure can actually motivate advanced practices. It pulls for it, it begs for it. If you embrace it, it can motivate the development, and the development motivates more love and more commitment. And marriage is a concept that can come out of that dynamic, rather than artificially say, "I'm going to promise to do all these things so you don't have to be afraid." That's a stage one or at best stage two developmental structure that, as we know, usually often doesn't go that well. But it doesn't have to be that way. Marriage can be connected to third stage development, to wisdom and advanced stages of wisdom and love that enhance each other. And from that point of view, it not only is not riddled with risks, it actually enhances both love and development. So why don't I stop there and we could do the discussion later.
Oh, so much wisdom you share with us, Shani. Thank you immensely. The jokes are excellent. They all had me cracking up. And I was mindful of my legs this morning because I danced for 7 hours straight. And so they were a little sore, but I was still grateful for them. That's why I thought of
Nice.
it this morning. But yes, so important, that piece of gratitude. And I love you said I'm saying it in my way, but you said something like gratitude seeing with a new eye, a new perception. And I used to say, I wish I had the magic wand, for things that are going on. And in more recent years, I say, I have the magic wand. It's gratitude. I feel like gratitude is the magic wand, if per se, for anything going on. If we can see with those eyes you talked talked about. It changes the whole picture, right? And I just I love everything you said. And this is definitely a deeper dive in questions. So we're not going to do any Q&A here on the Facebook live stream chat because we have about 5 minutes to get into our Zoom room. So come talk more about, I love what you said here. Marriage is an opportunity to love someone with tremendous skill. That is like quotable quote right there. Love it. Thank you, Dr. Shani Robbins. You are amazing, and we're so thankful for you and your wisdom. So we're going to wrap up here with our prayer of divine awakening, and then we're going to move over to our Zoom room. The link is on our website, unityinspiredliving.org. Just pop in there with all your questions, your comments, your deeper dive into this topic with Shani. This is such an opportunity. Invite others because this is an incredible discussion. It's so expansive, and I believe it's so important as well. So thank you, Dr. Shani Robbins. I'm going to drop the link in the chat here too in the Facebook live stream. So I'm going to share my screen with you right now with our prayer of divine awakening and invite you to speak it out. Can I share my screen? Yes, I can. Momentarily. Okay, prayer of divine awakening. Make this a declaration for your day, for your life, if it feels right. It's a new day, a beautiful day, a new beginning. I embrace this day with new eyes, an open heart, and expansive mind. I choose my vibrational frequency deliberately and consciously harmonizing with life's events. I am receptive to source energy, divine guidance, and wisdom available to me at all times. I commit to serve unconditional love fully and completely. I move forward in a state of appreciation, an extension of the one magnificent power and presence. I am sovereign, whole, and free, claiming dominion over my life as I go in peace and awaken my divinity. And so it is. Dr. Shani Robbins, how can people find out more about wisdom therapy and you? What's the best way to connect?
So wisdomtherapy.com is my website, and my contact is on there. And you're free to send them my email. My email, wisdomtherapy@gmail.com, is probably the best contact.
Perfect. Congratulations. We're so excited for you and Natalia.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you in the Zoom room in just a few minutes, everybody. Blessings. Shine on, bright ones. Bye,
Sounds good.
Shani. Thank you.
Sure.